Well, hello, hello, hello. We are recording. We are recording from Arlington, Vermont, and I am Happy Valley Hobbies, and these are hobbies that make me happy. And we have Wigwag in the house. Apparently waiting for at least 10 minutes. So, how you doing, Wigwag? All right, let's take the chat, pop it out, so we can actually see it a little better. Welcome to live chat. And there is Dwight. Thank you for coming in from Curly Express. I think Wigwag probably has walked away for a couple of seconds, but it's been a relaxing day, sort of a relaxing weekend. I do have a unique situation with work because I have my normal work schedule is it's a 10-hour shift, but it's a 4-day week normally. So I usually have a 3-day weekend. What happened this weekend? It was a normal. Well, it wasn't a normal week because I wasn't in shipping and receiving. But yeah, I was in shipping and receiving in the first part of the day, and then they had me go into the sewing department, doing things that I get the impression that the ones there don't really consider it. Well, one thing is that there's one particular machine that consider it boring. It's basically a machine that takes pieces of reinforced plastic and just cut them into strips. And the machine is very boring until it gets to the end of the roll. And then it starts messing up and all that. And you have to sort of get the machine, try to get the machine not to screw up. Another one was, cutting Velcro. It's one of those things of, not what you want to call the most sexy of the processes. Which interesting, the same machine that was doing, it uses a hot knife to do the cutting. It's also designed so it could use a cold knife to cut the Velcro. But apparently, I don't know the whole situation, but I guess I don't know how to change it over. And from what I have heard, it's not very easy to change over. Don't know, but hey, I get paid no matter if I'm using the machine or regular scissors. And that's what a good portion that Monday they had me doing screen printing because the screen printer injured himself over the weekend. So that's why I assumed that I was doing on Tuesday, but then it's like, no, they need you over there because the other guys, it got really complicated. But, I get paid no matter if I'm in shipping and receiving or in the other locations. So, but because of that, for a couple of weeks before, they actually, had me working on Friday because they kept on scheduling, a customer kept on scheduling a fully loaded vehicle to be loaded and shipped to them on Fridays. But I did not excuse me. Since I was in a different department, even though I did ask ahead of time, it's like, do you need me on Friday? But they said not at this time. But the thing is, I never saw my supervisor for the rest of the day, so I couldn't confirm to you, hey, do you need me for Friday? So I did not show up Friday, even though, from what I understand, they were doing a bunch of stuff that was on Friday because they were asking everybody in the sewing department, can they come on Friday? And it's like, I'm not sure why they're saying that, oh, we need to have this done on Friday when that's overtime, so that costs the company more money. Why schedule? Why have? Oh my God, we had to have this very important thing done on Friday instead of doing it on Thursday, which is the end of the work week. Don't know. There's many. There are many questions that I'm like, huh? Okay. But that is that. All right. Now, model train wise, now that I got that off my chest, is basically finishing. All right. Back to settings, changing the camera. And basically what I'm planning on doing is finishing up the pond, because what I wound up doing is asking New Tracks Modeling, which had their My Build section, which is basically showing off what you have done. It's also supposed to be, if you're in mid-project, hey, what you're doing and what you need help on. And I needed help a little bit with this pond here. And so I asked, what's a good way to make this pond? One of the suggestions was epoxy, until they found out that this is pretty much wooden plaster. And it's like, yeah, that's wooden plaster is not going to be a good result for this. But the one of the things was, doing possibly the Mod Podge that I have here, and also putting a piece of clear plastic over this. Well, this is not very deep, so I guess I can get away with a very, very diluted Mod Podge. Sort of like make it as almost like a water paste, and then slowly put it on there until it levels out. And there's a good chance it might not be a perfect stream, but it's one of those things of try and find out, basically. So I'll take this Mod Podge. Let's see, do I have a smaller one? Yeah. We'll use this smaller one here, which has some Mod Podge in it, but basically I'll add more water. I'll basically add water to it, which I do have. In fact, I'm going to add this water, which actually has a little soap in it. I'm assuming that there's a big story behind tuna. I'm not sure what that story is about tuna, but it seems that Curly and Wigwag are involved with tuna. And I'm assuming it's in a playful inside joke. Okay. Get some water in there. Let's see, how liquid is this? All right, it's very liquidy. Now the challenge is setting this up so it's relatively straight. Perhaps a little bit too much water. The thing is, I didn't fill it up completely, so we can add more Mod Podge to the ladder. Of course, you can't really see me pouring it in here, but again, we'll shake it up. And being this liquidy, there'll be less amount of bubbles. You don't really want too much in bubbles. Oop. Okay. Unfortunately, it looks like some of this Mod Podge has gotten into the trees, which is not what I was hoping for. Now the trees above the water, not in the water. So maybe if we push this a little over this way. Not sure how well that's going to seep in. The idea is to get it up high enough so it'll start like a real pond, sort of like use this as the dam that's holding everything up. So that's how that's going to look. All right. Now, let's see. What else am I going to think of? All right. I'm going to think of adding some... Well, I'm using fine ballast buff, which right now I'm... Ooh, actually, hold on one second. Let's see. Do we have access to used stuff? No. That's some used stuff, but that's used ties. I think somewhere... here we are. This is some former pieces of ballast. We can probably use this filler in some places, especially if there's like big chunks like that, where we can fill in locations. So we're not using all of it, but a way to reuse some stuff that I took off before on the older, the older version of this. So, Wigwag, are you feeling better? Or you just don't want to respond to Tuna Face? need to move the camera just a tad. There we go. Put that one there. I'm just trying to figure out where to. I said put these other ones there to help with, sort of as fill to sort of make it so I'm not using as much of the new ballast. Which you said at the beginning of the streaming, you had blank off your chest. Okay, now I'm starting to understand why Nissy doesn't like the heart, because the heart actually went and blocked off one of your words. Well, hello there, Rick's River Raven Trains. Thank you for joining us. I'm trying to think, what rock is this? This is a dark rock. Yeah, I didn't know I had dark rocks, but oh well. Well, yeah, there are some rocks that are darker than others, so I'll put that there just to give it a little bit variety there. I'm going through to see if I can find more old ballast to use as filler for the new ballast. Actually, according to the lack of a wrench, Rick is not one of the ones that, as Anthony Dodds likes to say, been knighted. So knock everything behind the screen all over the place. Yes, I'm basically almost finishing up this scene on a diorama. Basically to practice skills before putting it on the layout, or if I actually wind up doing something for the layout like this. Right now, my layout is not set up for any water features, but I wound up buying some bridges and all that, and so this is a way I can, after building said bridges, I can actually find a spot to put them on. All right. That looks like all the big chunks of ballast. So now I'm going to add. Oh, Boxcar Jerry, thank you for coming in. And right now I'm trying to use old ballast and old other old things to, fill in the areas where I'm going to be putting new ballast and basically making it so I'm not using as much new ballast. Using the older ballast as a as a filler. Or at least trying to anyway. What track am I using? What I am using is Code 55 Nickel Silver. It is HO scale, but I have it gauged to 6 foot instead of your normal standard gauge. The rails, the guardrails, those are actually spaced to standard gauge. I have right now, that's one thing I'm practicing right now, is doing 6 foot gauge track, because I admittedly little disconcerted on doing 6 foot gauge equipment. It's about a millimeter. 6 foot gauge in HO scale is 1 millimeter off of S gauge. So I haven't gotten to that part to. I do have a locomotive in mind to re-gauge the 6 foot gauge. I'm going to. Why did I re-gauge it? Basically because I want to see about doing 6 foot gauge. It's something that it's not done in the United States. Well, broad gauge is not done pretty much at all in the United States. My basically the genesis of it was with my modular club. A lot of people liked seeing the shorter 18th century stuff because it looked different. So originally I was thinking of doing like everybody else and doing standard gauge, but I got interested in 6 foot gauge and decided to go that direction. And this is going to be, I'm planning on this being I'm calling it the experiment. It's a lifelike teapot, and the thing is that I think this is double O gauge instead of HO scale. And the thing is that the cylinders are actually at the right, since it's double O, the cylinders are actually wider out, and it's actually a narrow gauge engine. But it's different scale. But the scale and everything works out pretty close. Can't really tell from this camera position, but it actually looks like it's a broad gauge. It looks like a broad gauge engine. Calling it the experiment because I don't know how it's going to come out. But as you see, it already has spacers on there, so I could theoretically space out the wheels to fit the wider gauge. I also have some of the Dixie Bell style, which is a model of the the Sierra number 3, and which is also, from what I understand, OO gauge, because at the time they didn't have small enough motors, and that has the wheels the wheels have the same arrangement where there's this massive spacer on the outside because because they took a standard gauge engine and made it narrow gauge. And so I'm also planning on doing that also, but I'm doing it on this first, mainly because this was actually part of a box that I got one time. I was actually aiming for specifically some of the River Rossi style American locomotives and all that, and this happened to be in there. So at first I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? And then when I realized that it was a 00 gauge engine, it's like, hey, I can use this as an experiment to see how well I can turn around and make a broad gauge locomotive out of it. Now it's one of those things that my first thing is to re-gauge it and then slowly get rid of the mistakes on it. I mean, it's like this, both domes are like complete, not only they're wonky and all that, but there's other things that are wrong with, the smokestack doesn't line up. This is too far back. It's a coal load, it's a metal thing and all that. So it's one of those things of first re-gauging it. If that's successful, then slowly rebuilding it otherwise. Can I get rolling stock? No one makes broad gauge stuff. As far as I know, no one makes broad gauge stuff. There is a possibility that someone maybe in the 60s or something like that might have made an Erie or a Lackawanna 6-foot gauge engine as a display piece. But as far as I know, no one has made any broad gauge engines that I'm aware of. One thing I have found out over the years that once you say, oh, they never made this, all of a sudden find out that, oh, yes, they made something like this years ago. I remember Model Railroader had a thing called It Ain't Prototypic. And they would actually find live things or real prototypes of what was done on model railroads. I think the most famous one that I'm aware of is, you can't use a bridge over a tunnel portal, to hide something behind the backdrop, and then all of a sudden there's like, oh, there's this location right here that does exactly that. Why, thank you, Jerry. Oh, hello there, Randall. Thank you for coming in. Now, other rolling stock and stuff along those lines. I think most of it has to be either scratch built or either finagled with stuff. There is one of the things is during this era is that there was no, quote, real standardization. I mean, they didn't even have a standard gauge at the time. Even though a lot of ads at that time, say, oh yeah, we got a standard, we have standard gauge. But the question is, was standard, what the Pennsylvania Railroad, I think at this time had, if I remember correctly, it was 4'9". It was not 4'8.5". It was 4'9". Same thing with the New York Central. Which I think is within the possibly within the tolerance of the era with with the tolerance of track at the time at this time in this time. All right, that's going to be a slight challenge of fixing that. Because I don't want to get glue there. stick on the bridge, but unfortunately that might happen. I'm trying to remember how I did it before so it wouldn't stick. But I also, from what I understand, ballasting was done a little bit differently during this time. Most modern ballast, I think they had the rocks sort of kind of on the outside supporting the rail. From my understanding, during this time, the it wasn't even really ballast. It was more like whatever dirt they had around. Ballast is actually modern ballast is actually crushed rock. At this time, I don't think they. I could be wrong. I'm not sure when crushed ballast became a thing, but yeah, for the fun part. All right. So I want to be able to separate the rocks from the ballast because I don't need. What I want to do is take the rest of the ballast that I have and sort of like separate them in the cup. It's going to take a while, but basically I'm planning on using this used ballast on the little pond here. That requires getting out most of the, well, obviously the big rocks. So probably not going to get all the rocks out, but I just want the bigger rocks out. These, the ones that are sort of like massively sized. The smaller rocks, like these, I guess we can keep them in there. Definitely want the larger rocks out. I have to probably do this a little bit off camera because it's easier to see. All right, just like this, the larger rocks are going to come to the top. Same thing with the wood pieces that I got in here, which wasn't intentionally going to have them in there, but there they are. But, sometimes trying to keep things within the camera sometimes can be a bit of a challenge. All right, I think that's enough of the big rocks. Let's take out all the ties that we're not using. Now, find another place for or something for the sort of, it's a little overkill what I wanted, but oh well. Of course I dropped something. All right. This is sort of an experiment to try to make it look like a pond, and I think I completely ruined it. Sometimes too much of a good thing is, well, too much. So, yeah, that pond I think is ruined. It's just that that's one of the things of the idea behind these dioramas is experimentation and practice. And if I've done something drastically wrong, I've done something drastically wrong. But I'm having a feeling that I won't know how bad it is until everything is dry. And for some reason, I don't know why do I have a okay. see. Start share. No, listen. Listen. All right. Ta-da. Of course, the only time that I actually did not have Price Manager on, so I do not know what happened. Well, I know that things were just far from being happy. All right, so we're back. Not sure what would be the appropriate hand signal, but okay. Sorry about that. Apparently, my computer decided I don't want to say nice. Thank you, Dwight. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what had specifically happened. It looked like my solid state disk went to 100%. Normally, I would assume that my hard drive went nuts, but I want to say maybe about a month ago, Firefox did something, and all of a sudden, it's not using my disk, my hard disk anymore. Which for a while there, I was something wrong with the Task Manager, but apparently no, because it's sort of normally been running a lot better, but actually been using the uh, it's been mostly using the solid state drive. All right, I'm gonna have to play around with the pond a bit. Fortunately, I got it so liquid now, it's actually going into the trees, which is going to be annoying, but I think my plan is going to let it dry like that, and maybe add some more stuff around the sides as a beach or something, but don't know. It's one of those things of I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. So let's see. Now I'll concentrate on the track. Yeah, it looks like, let's see, Woodwag said it turned, or actually Dwight said that it turned black, and so did Woodwag at 7:23. It's now 7:27. So, 2:25, 2:26 is when it came back. So technically, I think I was offline for 3 minutes. Let's see, add the wet water here as a base. We'll add the ballast. Let's go this direction. In this direction instead of the spoon side. You can tell that they use these out of industrial
industrial spice things. Slowly tap the back. Stuff goes out theoretically at the hole in the center. That's too much. And then we'll use a sacrificial wide sacrificial brush. Sort of take it off there, smooth it out. And some there. And from what I understand, how they did ballast at this time, it was more with dirt and cinders and stuff like that, not with modern ballast, which is crushed rock. And it was done slightly differently. From what I understand, they had it set up where they would have it set up where you would set it more for drainage, and so you would have the stuff on the more stuff in the center than on the outside. So sometimes the inner track would actually show up as having a lot of ballast or a lot of rock in the center, but not on the outsides. And that was done so it would drain easier. That's from that's from what I've found out so far. That's why I'm sort of brushing more on the rails. Sort of get that aim for the rails that way. Because the dry stuff goes real easy, but once it picks up the wet water, it wants to cling to itself. So that's going to be a challenge to realize it. That's what out of camera range. Trying to think now. I guess I'm not out of camera range. We might have to add more ballast along here hide the fact that there's a large piece of wood there. But, I believe tonight is Ray's race night for Sidetrack Saturday or Sunday. Didn't want that much. Basically, what I'm planning on doing is adding ballast to everything. And then turning around and then adding in some of the places adding adding greenery on some of the stuff to sort of hide the fact that there's a slope, but then adding greenery like this stuff and all that to sort of go, oh, okay, it's doesn't go that far. As you see here, this sort of falls all the way down here, but looks like the internet is away. All of a sudden, I lost internet connection. So, maybe coming back. Alright, looks like I'm back. I think I'm back. It shows that I'm back. Okay, looks like I'm back. It's supposed to be back. Looks like I'm back. It looks like I also might have lost everyone to last everyone. It says energy watching, so I'm not sure if I'm the same person. But, alright. It seemed like I lost the connection at, well, the chat disconnected at 7:37 and reconnected a minute later. I'm not sure when the other one happened. Well, it's 7:45 according to my clock, so it's probably a good time to sign off. And sorry for the. I'm assuming it's the internet because at first I thought it was StreamYard, but then all of a sudden YouTube is also saying that hey, you're disconnected. So I'm assuming that it's the internet, not the fault of StreamYard. So, well, I believe that the world needs more love. So find your passion, add some simians to it, and spread it out. In the official, the actual official internet.